Part 1, about channeling. The nature of channeling. What is channeling? Channeling is a means of communicating with any consciousness that a channel or channeler allows to express through him or her. We live in a multi-dimensional universe. Michael teaches that the physical plane is the first plane and most dense of 7 planes. The next plane is the astral. We dwell on the lower astral plane between birth and after death, and sometimes visit it when dreaming. The other planes are the causal, akashic, mental, messianic, and buddhic. They aren't really separate from our lives here on the physical plane. Through channeling, we can make conscious contact with higher planes. We can also communicate with beings who are physical but non-human, such as devas, nature spirits, dolphins, whales, and extraterrestrials. The term channeling usually refers to communication with teachers. The majority are astral. The rest are from planes above the astral, known as the high planes. Michael is on the causal plane. Although the universe contains an infinite variety of consciousness that could theoretically be channeled, in practice, channels usually tune into that with which they have a meaningful connection and which is well suited to the channeling process. The most form of communication with non-physical consciousness is with people who have passed on, but what is usually referred to as mediumship rather than channeling. The Whoopi Goldberg character in the movie Ghost was a medium, although there is overlap. Channeling refers to accessing higher knowledge in order to support spiritual growth and to gain greater clarity about one's life. For instance, my clients often ask Michael about what's going to be behind the scenes in problematic relationships. Michael may give information about past life connections, karmas, agreements, and larger issues being worked on by both parties, providing a soul's eye view of that relationship's dynamics. This can be very useful and is not the sort of information normally available from a therapist or counselor. If a person is seeing a therapist, working with Michael can be complementary. A medium, as defined here, might also provide this kind of information. But the intent in seeing a medium is usually to communicate with a specific person who has passed on. Souls who are between lives are not necessarily expert in accessing big picture information. They are generally more objective about physical experience than we are here on the physical plane. But being non-physical doesn't automatically make someone skillful or knowledgeable, let alone wise or loving. Every consciousness must earn its enlightenment. There is much about the process of channeling that is unknown or difficult to put into words, and each experience is unique. However, some generalizations can be made. Channeling occurs through what Michael calls the higher centers, which are somewhat dormant in most of us, but can be opened with practice. Higher centers are the parts of our psyche that can connect with universal love, truth, and beauty, or pure energy. They are like radios in the personality that can be tuned into the frequency of the channeled entity. The signal is generally received first physically by the crown chakra. The physical body has 7 main chakras, which are focal points of energy. The crown chakra is the highest and the 7th. It is located at the crown of the head. An occupational hazard afflicting some channels and psychics is that their pineal gland, the physical seat of the crown chakra, becomes exhausted and does not produce enough melatonin. Melatonin regulates the diurnal or nocturnal cycle, and a deficiency of it can cause various problems such as sleep disorders. In verbal channeling, the signal then stimulates the sixth chakra, the third eye, and the brain, searching the subconscious for correlating words. Either the entity, the channel, or both, working together cooperatively, select the specific words that seem to best express the thoughts. Even if the entity selects the words, the channel doesn't usually experience this as hearing external voices. It has the sound of his own thoughts, since channeled entities do not have physical voices. This is not unlike the process by which we translate our own thoughts into words, except that it is more difficult because someone else's thoughts are being translated through the channel. By definition, teachers from higher planes work more with the invisible aspects of things, coming at information differently from us. They often seem to spiral into core insights, gradually unveiling one layer after another, rather than coming up with an instant analysis of what is occurring. This is a delicate process, an art as well as a science. Some people channel or at least tune into higher sources without being aware of it. They assume that the thoughts they are having are their own when it is not entirely the case. This can account for several people coming up with a similar invention or song, for instance, at the same time. A higher plane source is trying to get its idea to the physical plane and works with several people simultaneously, hoping that at least one of them will make it available to others. We are each creative beings in our own right, so we cannot necessarily attribute inspiration to higher sources. However, we receive more spiritual help than we usually realize. My original impression was that channeling is a simple matter of dictation. That if Michael wishes to communicate something, it should sound the same no matter who the channel is. However, experience has taught me that channeling is a much more complex phenomenon. I now see it as a collaboration with many variables. Being physical, it is hard for us to fully and truly understand what is not physical. It is like working with flat, two-dimensional blueprints that represent three-dimensional buildings. They can be useful, but they cannot replace direct three-dimensional experience, and some direct experience is simply not available to us now. Until we ourselves are non-physical, we will not be able to completely comprehend how channeling really works, who or what Michael really is, and many other things. Even regarding physical phenomena, science purports to explain many things that are not truly understood. Do we really truly comprehend photosynthesis, for example? We may appreciate an explanation of the mechanics, which may or may not be fairly accurate. Science often changes its mind, but surely that is not the whole picture. It is good to maintain a healthy appreciation of mystery. I am not suggesting blind faith or belief, but awareness of the vastness of life. Names of channeled entities. Names are conveniences we use on the physical plane. A name for a channeled entity may have some relationship to that entity's vibration or to a name it assumed in a past life, but names are always at least somewhat arbitrary. When non-physical entities are first channeled, they sometimes resist their listeners' request to assign themselves names. They can find that limiting. On the lower astral plane, souls are still reincarnating, and those who work with them may, like us, use names for convenience, but they usually use them flexibly, with the understanding that alternate names, such as from other past lives, are available and equally valid. above the astral plane, names are not used. Like all words, names are representations, and higher plane entities do not use representations. They communicate their thoughts directly. Thoughts precede words and do not require words to exist. Ways of channeling. There are various ways of channeling, each with potential advantages and disadvantages. Some material is channeled through a Ouija board, one letter at a time.